Hi, and welcome to What Are the Chances, a segment based on a TV series that was never a TV series. In fact, it was just an idea, but I always thought, hey, that's a good idea. And plus, I had all these crazy things that happened to me that I always wrote down, thanks to George Carlin, the amazing comedian who once said it in an interview. I always wrote down all these jokes that I've been writing over the years, and it was part because of George Carlin, but also these strange events that always happen to me. And I always thought, what are the chances? So I decided to accumulate all the ones that happened to me, and then I thought to my partners, what about making a TV series, kind of like America's Funniest Home Videos, where it's a live audience, you have a host, and then on one side, you have one person telling their story and their what are the chances story, maybe a 2-minute segment where it's verified in some way, and then the other person on the other side does the same thing, has a strange thing that happened to them, because so many things have happened to me that I feel is strange. So there are 8 or 9 billion people out there in the world, so I'm assuming that other people like myself have the same kind of weird things. So this would all be done on a in a live audience setting, similar to America's Funniest Home Videos, and then the people in the audience would vote on their phones, as well as the people that are watching on the interweb and watching on the live TV. So the TV series never went, but I thought, what if I just told you some of these weird stories, and maybe the people that are listening might go, hey, wait a minute, what are the chances of that? Or I've got one that's even crazier. The thing is, the TV series, we would have brought in science too. We would have brought in my sister, who's a mathematician, Sandra, to figure out really what are the chances of a particular story actually happen. And they have to be verified. And that's the whole thing. Some could be complete baloney, but we don't want to do that kind of thing. You don't want to make it like an American Idol kind of thing. You want it to be verified, really odd story. So I'll give you my odd story, and then see what you guys think, the people that are watching on the interweb, and maybe you can have your own ideas of things that weird have happened. Now, do I think any of the many, maybe a dozen odd things in my life that have happened are supernatural? Well, I don't think so. Just odd. And I've had a lot of them, and I just figured that there's 8 or 9 billion people in the world. You must be experiencing, at least a few of you out there, the same kind of odd things. So here's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so it's 1999, and it's in New York City, just outside New York City, at the Meadowlands, which is the place where the New York Giants, they still play, I believe. Well, I was there for the Women's World Cup, covering it for Direct Kicks and Direct Kicks for Chicks, the 2 TV series that I created and was hosting with Helen Stumbos. And Canada women's team, I believe, were playing. I don't know who they were playing, but it was one of the early games. We didn't have a lot to do before the game because we didn't broadcast the games or anything, so we had nothing to do. And I was in the media room, in the press room, up top. So we're looking down on in the top of the bowl of the Meadowlands. I noticed at the bottom of the people milling about in the media room, they all had their computers out and writing their stories, was the well-known Stephen Brunt. At the time, in 1999, he was the Globe and Mail columnist, and I recognized him mostly for boxing. I went, that's Stephen Brunt. That's the guy that does boxing for TSN, and he also writes novels about Sean O'Sullivan in particular that I remember. And I thought, oh, geez, I got some time. I've never met the guy. I'd love to go down. Everybody knows me. I'm a huge boxing guy. So I went down and introduced myself, and hey, it was nice because we were one of the only 2 Canadians covering the Canadian team in that particular area of the press room. And so I just was, for small talk, I said, hey, where are you from? And he just said, oh, Oakville. And I went, oh, so I wanted to be chummy with him because I didn't have much opportunity to meet somebody like him. I was a big fan, and I wanted to talk more with him. And I said, "Oh, have you ever been to the Three Judges, the boxing pub?" And he said, "No, no, tell me about it." And I went, "Okay, well, it was on the main strip somewhere. I'm not familiar with Oakville, but it's a funny story because I had gone in to see a friend who was the lead singer of a band, but I got there really early, so I was sitting down and I was writing notes down, and I didn't notice anything. I was just oblivious to everything. I ordered a beer and I was drinking a beer. It wasn't until the end of the beer that I kind of looked up, and from the other side of the room, I look up and I see this really famous print. And it was the Dempsey Furpo print where Dempsey was falling out of the ring. And, I'm a huge boxing buff and historian, and I know you are, that's the actual print that started that whole night. I'm going, oh, wait a minute. I had been sitting there for over an hour, and every single inch of every wall was filled with all these old, amazing boxing pictures. And he's looking at me really odd. And I know that he's a huge boxing guy and a huge history guy. So I know he knows when I started mentioning. And when I mentioned again that it all started with this particular print of Dempsey, with him falling out. And I'm describing it to him. And he's looking at me really strange, almost like he had never heard of that fight. And I'm going, I thought it was odd. And then he slowly pulls out like this, and he reaches under, and he takes this out. He had just been to the Bellows Museum. Now, it wasn't in a frame, it was rolled up, but this was the print that I was seeing in that bar that night. I ended up buying, and he had just been to the Bellows Museum. So he looked at me like I had been stalking him. But what are the chances? I don't know. We have to talk to scientists. My sister Sandra. And you, the audience, do you have anything? Not an explanation. That's just odd, right? But what are the chances? Can we find scientists out there that can figure that out? Or do you have a story out there that's crazier? Well, you probably do. Is it verifiable? Or mine's not verifiable until you talk to Stephen Brunt. But this is the thing. This was 1999, so 25 years later, he becomes I wouldn't say a media darling, but certainly his career as a writer and as more a reporter. He's well more known in the sporting world as diving deep into some really great stories in many sports, not just boxing. In fact, I don't know how much boxing he does anymore. Doesn't matter. He's knowledgeable all across the board. But back in the day, I didn't know that. And I have not seen him since, which is really cool because all I'd have to say is, Steve, remember me? No. Dempsey Furpo. Oh, he would turn around and run. Well, what are the chances? He's too old to run. He's probably limp. I hope he's doing all right. Anyway, that's my what are the chances story. Do you have one? What are the chances? I'm going to find out. See you next time.